Hi Montreal Python, this is Konstantin. I wanted to make it up for you to you for not completing my presentations yesterday during the epic fail that I had for my Puppet installation. So I wanted to complete the lab this morning and just send you this video because I feel bad for kind of failing everybody during that process. So when we were last trying to do it, what I did in the first place is I tried to copy the Puppet manifest in place, so we can start again right from that spot. And let's see, Puppet manifest. Now I'll reproduce the error and I'll show you exactly what I did wrong. So I did CPA instead of CPR. CPA, actually I'm going to go to modules first. CPA root Totpcgi contrib Puppet. This is what I did, and so when I do cp-a, it preserves the SELinux permissions on those files, so Puppet was not actually able to read them. And instead of giving me a useful error, because I would expect any application to do like that, saying I cannot load those files, it was giving me something completely bogus, right? So if we edit site pp now and do the same thing as yesterday, node, server, lab, inherits default, and say include, I'm going to type this morning, server, I'm going to do the same thing but for client. Come on. And it'll give me the same error. Right? Yeah, so that's the error that we're saying, can't convert nil in whatever to string, which was really not useful. So the solution to this was to do restore con and etc Puppet modules, and it will apply the right permissions to the to those files, or apply the right labels. So now if I run the same Puppet agent T, what this will do is this will install the install the Puppet manifest. It will install the Totpcgi packages. It will install the file in place. Before I do this, I'm going to go ahead and edit them so it does the right thing. Modules, CGI, templates. I'm going to edit this file and say server admin. Let's make it a real person. Server name is going to be not that. It's going to be lab. That's the only thing we need to do here. Everything else is automatic. url.conf, we do the same thing. Server lab. And provisioning. So, change it to a real person. And this one is changed to be lab. All right, I believe that's all we needed to do. Yes, so now if we run Puppet agent T, it will not fail. It will do the right thing. It will apply the necessary configuration. What this is doing in the backend, this is installing the package files. It's putting the files in place. It's starting the HTTPD service, and let's see how well it does. All right, so it created mod SSL package. It put files in place. It set up Totpcgi provisioning package, which we'll be using very shortly to provision ourselves a token. Hurry up. While it's doing that, I'm going to go here on the client and do the same thing. Agent-T. And this only has to install two things. It has to install pam URL and has to put the sudo.pam that we modified to request a two-factor authentication token whenever somebody tries to do sudo. So let's go back to server, and that's still working there. because it's installing SE Linux policies in place. That usually takes a while. This should be almost done. Yeah, there we go. So this should have completed everything that we needed to do. First, before we go any further, let's create a local user. User add Mr. Icon, both in server and on a client, because they're not talking to any directory server, so I'm going to do it locally. User add Mr. Icon, and then password. Let's call it junk. All right, and I do the same thing here. Add Mr. Icon. Junk. I mean, in a real world, they'll probably be talking to some sort of a directory service. So you will not have to do it in both server and client. All right, so if everything worked, what we should be able to do now is we're going to go over here. We're going to go to HTTPS server.totpcgi Lab. Right, something I forgot to do is change the IP tables. Sysconfig IP tables on the server. We're going to do allow access to port 443 and 8443. So let me explain what the difference between 443 and 8443. So there is two components to a Totpcgi server. One of them is the provisioning component. That's the client-facing one that the client, when they want to enroll themselves with your two-factor authentication service, they will be going to your server on port 443, and this will present them the client visible certificate. This is the real certificate that you would get. You'd go out to Thought or whatever it is, and you obtain a real client, real SSL certificate, and you put it in your 443. Port 8443 is for the internal communication between the client and the server. This is not user visible. I mean, I'm opening it to the world, but I don't really have to here. You can just say, what's my internal subnet between the clients, where all my clients are, and client servers are, and what my internal server is. So let's say 192.168 something, whatever. This would be open to the world for all your clients to come in and to enroll themselves. So I'm going to apply this and start IP tables. And let's go here and let's try it. Yeah. So because I haven't installed a real SSL certificate from Thought or from Start SSL or from any other place, I'm using the default self-signed certificate that comes with a CentOS. So this is telling me this is not a real certificate, but we don't really care at this point because it's just a presentation. So your clients will not see this because you would go out and get a real SSL certificate and put it in place. I say proceed anyway, and it says authentication required. And now I'm going to log in with my user credentials, Mr. Icon. Junk, log in. All right, and this presents me the provisioning page with the QR code and with the one-time tokens. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my phone, which you cannot see. I know this is really helpful, and I was really hoping to show you this during the presentation. So I'm just going to go ahead and scan this QR code, and there we go. And whenever I type that type the tokens, you'll just have to believe me that this is what it's showing me on the little app here. So the client scanned this QR code. They have their Google Authenticator running. Now let's go back to the client. Actually, let's create a new window and try to SSH it directly again. So SSH, Mr. Icon at what's it? Client TOTP Lab. Password is junk. So now, on the client, let's allow user Mr. Icon to sudo. Let's go over here. Copy this. Instead of instead of group wheel, say Mr. Icon is allowed to sudo to anything. Just ask for the password, the usual, right? So this is my unauthenticated, this is my non-privileged Mr. Icon user. Now I'm going to try to sudo and see what happens. Sudo-I. First I enter my password, junk. If I can type it this morning, that'll be great. Junk. That was really good beer last night. So now it asks me for a Google Authenticated token. So it's already verified that the password is matched. So this is now we go into the second factor saying, tell me what your Google Authenticator is telling you. And currently the Google Authenticated token is telling me that it's 097598. Ta-da! Now we've, if we look back on the server, if we look in the var log messages, it will tell you, success, user Mr. Icon used valid token from host 192.168.122.62. That's our client. Now, if we try the same thing now, I mean, the benefit of this is that I can sudo now, again, because sudo, it caches my credentials, it allows me to sudo for a number of times. If I re-log in junk, that will expire. So I will do sudo-i again, using my junk password. No, Google Authenticated token, let's type 555555. Of course, it will tell me that it's not able to proceed. And if we look here and the password, it says failure, not a valid token. What we can also do here is junk. Now let's take a look and use one of these one-time tokens. And what the one-time scratch codes, what the 8-digit scratch codes are useful if you, for example, lost your phone or you want to re-enroll with another device or do something else. So you can use these one-time tokens to bypass the two-factor authentication. I mean, once you use one of them, it's gone. So if I use this one, it allows me in. And you see in the code it says scratch token used. So now if I try to use the same scratch token again, it will not allow me. But this is good if, for example, you lost your device and you want to re-enroll. And I'll show you how to do it. Let's say I lost my device, I don't have access to it, but I do still have access to the scratch codes. And I go back to this provisioning page. I'll say that existing token found, would you like to replace it? And it gives me an option to do so. So I'd say my password is junk, and my token code, and I'm going to use my scratch token here that I just copied from the previous page. And say submit, and it says, this will delete your current token and issue a new one. Are you sure you want to proceed? And this is the important part. So if you haven't actually lost your phone, but you want to put it on a separate device, this will erase the previous one. And the previous one that you've been using, it should be no longer valid anymore. So I'm saying, okay, proceed. It'll give me a new QR code, new set of scratch tokens, which I can then go ahead and scan again, which of course you can just trust me that I'm doing it right now. I'm scanning the QR code. There we go. And it's re-provision my token. Wrong window. And I'm going to go over here. Back SSH in, junk. And I'm going to sudo-i, junk. And this will ask me for Google Authentication token. And this time I'm going to enter the new one, 886427. And that succeeds. And if we look back in the var log messages on the server, it will tell me that valid token used. All right. Let's look at where everything is stored. There's the Etsy Totpcgi directory. There is a couple of configuration files there. There is that's the main one that tells the server how to operate. There is a way to require PIN code. I won't go into that because that's not part of this presentation. It tells you what the backend is. So the secret backend says where our Google Authenticator files are stored. Same goes for states. State files are, if we look in varlib topcgi, this is a just JSON file. It tells you, when was the last time I had successful attempt. It's important because this means that whatever was the token at this timestamp, it should not be reused again. It will also tell me what the used scratch tokens that I've used in the past. You don't see the one I used in the past here because this is a new, we have reissued since then, so it deleted all the previous state. If I try to authenticate and fail, it will record the fail timestamps, and this is used for things like rate limiting, which I can explain to you over here. If we look at the actual secret file, And you'll notice that it's exact this. If you've ever used Google Authenticator to manually enroll people using the PAM Google Authenticator mechanism, it's the files are exactly the same. You can just copy your existing Google Authenticator files and put them in place here. This is done so by default because we ourselves have migrated from Google Authenticator PAM module. It's got this is the secret. That's the actual pre-shared secret that we send to the phone and stored in the server. Now, the rate limit tells you. There is a documentation for all of this, but the rate limit says if you fail 3 times within 30 seconds, then we are going to not accept any more incoming validations from you, because this is a way to prevent somebody trying to brute force. I mean, it's only 999,999 possible variations, right? So if you send it fast enough, then you can potentially guess, just be lucky. But we rate limit by default. Saying if you fail 3 times within 30 seconds, we're just going to stop accepting anything else from you. Now, the window size is interesting. It's a bit obscure the way Google Authenticator implements this, because they do both for HOTP and TOTP. But for TOTP auth, which is the time-based, this is take this number, multiply it by 10 seconds. So it says there's allowed window of time drift, 30 seconds prior and 30 seconds later. So saying the time-based authentication requires that the time on your phone and the time on the server are exactly the same, or at least there is very little difference. So this allows us 30 seconds difference between the server and the phone. And you can increase this right here. You can just say, instead of saying 3, let's say make it 15. And this is give you 150 seconds before, and it will give you 150 seconds after. So what will happen if you submit a token and the server says this is not a valid token for right now, but I'm going to try within the window size to see maybe there is a drift on your phone, time drift on your phone. So it will try the tokens for 150 seconds before the current token, and we'll try the tokens for the next 150 seconds. And if any of those match, then it will tell you that it's a valid token within window size used. If you look in message, we always disallow reuse. So, which is really, if you don't use disallow reuse with Google Authenticator, it's there not one time anymore, which is really dumb that they even give this option. And these are the scratch tokens that it presented us during the enrollment. That's really all there is to it. There's nothing else here. If you have any questions, please go to the GitHub page. There is a issue tracker. You can go ahead and submit your issue there, or just go in Freenode and ping me. I'm using Mr. Icon in Freenode, and ask me any questions you have. There you go. That's the presentation that was supposed to be happening yesterday, and that failed because of Puppet. Unfortunately, you can't ask me questions directly anymore, but hopefully this makes up for my failure yesterday. I hope you guys have a lovely Tuesday, and I probably will see you next Montreal Python in September. Thanks very much. Bye.